Okay, have you ever been there? Tackling some really complex problem, putting in all this effort, and it just shifts, or maybe even gets worse. It's that really frustrating feeling, right? Where every solution seems to, I don't know, sprout new problems. Today, we're going to try and cut through some of that confusion. We're doing a deep dive into Donella Meadows' incredible work, Thinking in Systems. Think of it as maybe a guide to understanding these invisible forces that shape things around us, and maybe just maybe how you can make a real difference.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that we're moving beyond just blaming people or reacting to single events. That's not the point. Instead, we're looking deeper at the underlying structures, the dynamics that keep producing those patterns you mentioned. Gives you a whole new lens, really, for insight and for action, too.
Right, a new lens. So, systems. It sounds a bit, well, academic maybe, but Meadows has this brilliant, simple way in. The slinky, you make it bounce, sure, but it's mostly the slinky's own structure doing the work, isn't it? How does seeing things that way, how does it change how we approach those everyday messy problems like economic ups and downs or health trends?
It changes everything, fundamentally. A system really is just a set of interconnected things, elements, organized in a coherent way to achieve something, a purpose. And that interconnected part, that's what we usually miss. There's that great Sufi teaching, something like, you think because you understand one, you must understand two because one and one make two. But you forget, it says, that you must also understand and. That's the connections. That's the system. And crucially, its purpose. Which, by the way, often isn't what's written down or stated. You figure out the real purpose from the system's behavior, what it actually does consistently.
Wow. Okay. So behavior reveals the true purpose. That's a big shift. So if we start seeing these structures, these inherent patterns, how do they actually, work over time? Those ups and downs we talked about seem built in somehow. That gets into stocks and flows, right?
Precisely. Think of a bathtub. Simple analogy. The water level. That's a stock. An accumulation. The water coming in from the faucet or going out the drain. Those are flows, rates of change. And the key lesson, like Bathtub 101, is that stocks change slowly. They have inertia, they buffer things. You can slam the faucet on or off, yank the plug out. But the water level itself, much harder to change quickly. It means big problems, the really entrenched ones. They have this momentum from past flows. Don't expect instant fixes.
Okay, so these slow stocks, they build in delays. That makes sense. And I remember Meadows making a really surprising point about how we react or maybe overreact to those delays.
Oh, absolutely. This is critical. A delay, especially in what's called a balancing feedback loop, we'll get to that, makes a system likely to oscillate, to swing back and forth. Think about a car dealership ordering cars. Sales jump suddenly. They order more. By the time the cars arrive, maybe sales have dipped. Now they have too many, so they cut orders drastically. It creates these wild swings, not because anyone's dumb, but because of the time lags in the system. And here's the kicker. Our gut reaction is often to respond faster, right? Try to correct course quicker. But that can actually make the oscillations worse. You end up fighting the system's own rhythm.
Okay, wow, fighting the rhythm. So if stocks and flows and delays create this landscape, what's actually driving the behavior? What makes it move?
That's feedback loops. They're like the engines of the system. Two main kinds. First, balancing loops. They're goal-seeking, like your thermostat. Room gets too hot, furnace shuts off. Too cold, it kicks on. Trying to maintain a state. Stability. Then you have reinforcing loops. These are self-enhancing. They accelerate change. Think compound interest money makes more money. Or a rumor spreading, the more people hear it, the faster it spreads. These can lead to exponential growth or collapse. Understanding which loops are dominant helps explain why things are stable or running away.
It really is like once you know about them, you see feedback loops everywhere. It's almost unnerving. Which brings up the big question. If we understand this stuff, where's the leverage? Where do we intervene to actually make a difference? Meadows had this hierarchy, right? And it was kind of surprising.
Yeah, very surprising. The things we usually focus on, what she calls numbers, constants, parameters, like tax rates, subsidies, standards, they get maybe 99% of the attention.
Yeah.
But they're actually the least effective leverage points. They usually don't change the underlying structure much.
Okay, so if fiddling with numbers isn't the answer, what is more powerful? I remember something about just making information visible.
Exactly. Much higher leverage comes from changing the information flows within a system. Who knows what, how quickly, how accurately. The classic example she gives is those houses in the Netherlands. They moved the electric meters from the basement, hidden away, to the front hall, visible. Just doing that cut electricity use by about a third. People could see the impact of their actions in real time. Visibility changed behavior.
A third, just by moving the meter. That's amazing. So if information is powerful, what's the ultimate leverage point? The top of the hierarchy.
The highest leverage points, those are the goals of the system. And even deeper, the paradigm, the shared mindset, the deep-seated beliefs out of which the system arises, its goals, its structure, its rules. As Meadows said, if the goal is defined badly, if it doesn't measure what it's supposed to measure, the system can't possibly produce a desirable result.
Mm. Changing the goal or questioning the fundamental beliefs that shape that goal, that's where real transformation can happen, though it's often the hardest. So wrapping this up, what does this mean for you listening? I mean, systems sound complex, maybe unpredictable, but the message isn't despair. It's that systems can be understood. They can be designed and redesigned. It's less about control, maybe more about learning, adapting, and visioning.
And a key guideline Meadows offers for living in this world of systems is honor, respect, and distribute information. Make things visible. Think about the toxic release inventory in the US. Just publishing data on industrial chemical pollution. It led to a huge drop, something like 40% nationwide. Companies didn't want to be high on that list. Transparency drove change. Imagine applying that elsewhere.
Yeah, imagine. Okay, so a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. Systems thinking pushes us to value what's important, not just what's easy to count or measure. Meadows reminds us, right? No one can define or measure justice, democracy, security, freedom, truth, or love. You can't put a number on those. But designing our systems, our organizations, our communities with those deeper values in mind and really expanding the horizons of caring. Maybe that's how we build futures that are truly resilient and, well, better for everyone. Something to think about.